Hey everybody, HomeSliceHunter here, and in today's video, we're going to be taking a look at the new #1 ranked Pokemon in the Master Premier Cup. That is Thunder Punch Goodra. Goodra did see a little bit of play the last time Master Premier was out, but now that it has Thunder Punch, its coverage is dramatically improved, especially helping matchups like going up against the ever-present Gyarados. Now, PvPoke recommends Aqua Tail and Thunder Punch, which is a great moveset. I'm going to be trying out Thunder Punch Draco Meteor because I do like to land nuke moves. So without further ado, let's hop into the matches, and let's take a look at some Master Premier practice battles featuring Thunder Punch Goodra. Hopping into the first match, we're core broken on the lead Florges versus Skeledirge. I safe switch into Goodra, and my opponent is going to respond with a Dragon Breath Gyarados. Now this used to be an amazing matchup for Gyarados, but with Thunder Punch on the Goodra, now it is dramatically in the favor of Goodra. They're going to fire off a Crunch. I do not have to shield this. Goodra is very bulky in this format. I'm able to make a second Thunder Punch. Thunder Punch hits for double super effective damage, so I'm able to grab both shields from the Gyarados switch-in. And now I can send in the Florges, and even though I was completely core broken on the lead, since Skeledirge, it does extremely well against Florges and Annihilape, I'm now in a position where Annihilape up energy should hopefully be able to take care of the Skeledirge. So I am going to get them as low as possible, and then potentially look to snipe with a counter on Annihilape, because Energy Lead on Annihilape will be very valuable. So I do get that energy head start. What are they going to be sending in here? They're probably not going to want to send in the Skeledirge, they send in Dragonite. I'm not running Ice Punch, so I know I will need 2 moves to knock out. So to me, the safe play will be to go for the Night Slash first. Night Slash, of course, does give a very small chance of getting a boost, but even without a boost, I should be in a pretty good position to win this game. So I will go for the Night Slash, and then I should be able to outpace and make the Shadow Ball. Opponent times the switch perfectly to not only catch the Shadow Ball, but to get the Incinerate through. Shadow Ball does not one-shot in the Master League, so they are able to withstand that damage, but now I have a pretty easy win condition with the Florges, where I can just no-shield the Annihilape, send in the Florges. Disarming Voice will be able to KO, and since I threw 4 in the move, their second Incinerate doesn't register. They can send in the Dragonite, but the Dragonite is just much too low, and they're not going to be able to get to enough charge attacks. So one Disarming Voice will be able to pick up the knockout, KOing Dapper Dragonite, and taking the win. Picking up a bit of an interesting lead in the next match, leading Florges into a Smackdown Rhyperior. A lot of Rhyperiors do run Mud Slap if they're run in this format, but this trainer is clearly hunting for flying types. They're farming up a ton of energy with the Rhyperior. Honestly, I think I'm just going to let it go. Even if they Rock Wrecker me and I get KO'd, it's fine. Oh, they end up baiting with a Breaking Swipe. They don't get the debuff, and I'm just firing off the Moonblast right away. I want to guarantee the knockout or guarantee a shield. And I end up getting the knockout, which is great. What are they going to be sending in now? They send in their own Florges, and this is actually a problem. My backline is really weak to Florges. I am going to let this through. The Disarming Voice barely does not KO. The Florges hanging on with 1 HP, making the Moonblast and dealing substantial damage. And now, I'm going to be bringing in the Annihilape. This is not quite a range where a Night Slash can KO. I will commit the shield. Opponent is going to bait with the Disarming Voice. I'm farming up, and I decide, you know what? I'm full sending here. I am just going straight for this Shadow Ball, hoping they try and call the Night Slash bait, and they do. They get KO'd. In the back, it's Gyarados, and this is looking pretty good. I'm going to go for a bait here. They haven't shielded anything throughout this entire game, so they're likely to shield here, and I get the Night Slash boost. Unfortunately, I actually didn't need the Night Slash boost to win this game, so I would have been fine without it, because I still could have made a Shadow Ball, and a Shadow Ball does enough that if they shield it, then I can just Thunder Punch it, or if they no shield, then I can just Dragon Breath down. They end up shielding it, I can send in the Goodra. Goodra does not have to respect a Crunch, and it's unlikely they're running Dragon Breath plus Outrage, and I can make it to the Thunder Punch. Again, Thunder Punch is just really handy in a meta where Gyarados is absolutely everywhere. Thunder Punch, double super effective damage, will be able to take the win. Florges versus Hisui and Avalugg. This is a very negative matchup for Florges. Avalugg is able to outpace and win charge attack priority, and the continuous debuffs from Icy Wind make this very awkward. So the goal will often be to just try and get it low, and then aggressively switch into the Annihilape. Getting a couple counters on the Avalugg is very, very valuable, because then it's potentially in a range where you can knock out with a Disarming Voice, or Dragon Breath it down later. So I'm going to send in my Annihilape. Opponent is going to respond with a Waterfall Gyarados. I build up to the Shadow Ball, and I'm going for the bait. Let's see, will they commit the shield? No, they call the bait, but honestly, that's okay because I need 2 moves to KO anyway, so the bait isn't the worst idea in the world, and I will be able to make it to a Shadow Ball. Shadow Ball will actually pick up the KO here, but I'm baiting again. I'm feeling stubborn. They have to shield something, and they do. I barely make it to the last second Shadow Ball. This Shadow Ball into the Gyarados will be shielded. Opponent forced to double shield, and now I send in the Goodra. Waterfall Gyarados, I'm expecting Outrage, so I will commit the shield, but they're actually running Crunch. In comes the Avalugg, and just like that, I go from 2 shields to 0 in a split second. I'm going to look to farm up, bank some energy, send in the Florges, and snipe with the Disarming Voice that I have loaded. Because I have Draco Meteor on this Goodra, and Draco Meteor can do massive damage neutrally. In comes the Gyarados, the Waterfall does not KO, so I'm barely able to make it to my Disarming Voice. That picks up the KO, it's Shadow Dragonite in the back. We've seen why Thunder Punch is useful. Let's show why Draco Meteor is useful. Shadow Dragonite could win the game if I was Thunder Punch and Aqua Tail, but I am not. I go for the Draco Meteor, that picks up the KO, and I'm able to take the win. We've got a Florges Mirror in the next match, and honestly, this is amazing for me. I run Best Buddy Boost equipped on my Florges with this team, specifically to handle opposing Florges. I'm really weak to Fairy in the back, so guaranteeing that I'm going to be able to do well in the mirror is very valuable. I'm going to farm up and fire the Disarming Voice. I don't see a sneak, so it looks like it is charge attack priority. But as we find out, they actually waited the turn, they saved the energy, and they save switch into a Skeledirge. I mean, I definitely have to see the Skeledirge here. The Skeledirge matchup is like the one time where you do end up missing Aqua Tail because it ends up not being the fastest to charge attacks. Here, I decided to go for a bait. I think straight Draco Meteor is probably safer, but they do actually end up committing the shield. So I think in the moment, I was thinking that if they shield a Draco Meteor, I'm in a tremendous amount of trouble, so the Thunder Punch is probably the safer play. They have so much energy on the Skeledirge. This is going to be really uncomfortable. They land the Disarming Voice. I have my Annihilate. They're pretty low, but double resisted counters are not going to do a lot of damage. So I will commit the shield on the Annihilate as they go for the Disarming Voice. They're going to send in Golisopod as their final Pokemon. I'm going to go for the bait here. Because Shadow Ball is quite threatening, they will commit the shield, but I do not get the boost. In order to pick up a KO with the Shadow Ball, I would have needed a boost. I'm going to no-shield because I know I can survive. It will be the Aerial Ace, and I'm going to be able to make it to the Shadow Ball, and it looks like that was charge attack priority. So I fire off the Shadow Ball connects, dealing substantial damage, and I mean, it's going to be tough to win this game. I'm going to need perfect energy management. So I'm going to farm up 5 with the Florges, go for the CMP tie, and here's where I learned that Florges loses charge attack priority to Golisopod. I didn't know that. If I knew that, I would have done 4 in the move, because losing charge attack priority there instantly loses me the game, because whether it's via the charge attack from the Florges they have saved, or just Skeledirge, I'm not going to be able to win now. They can send in the Florges, and there is the Disarming Voice right on cue. So, a definite misplay by me in the endgame. I just didn't know that Golisopod won CMP over Florges, but that's good information to have for the future. Looks like we see the same leads again as we are met with another Florges Mirror. Again, very okay for me because I do have that Best Buddy boost equipped. Oftentimes I will just go for the Moonblast into the Disarming Voice. Disarming Voice doesn't quite KO, but if you land both, then you put yourself in a position where you can just farm them down with either counters or Dragon Breath. Opponent actually makes a nice catch onto Snorlax. However, Snorlax is not going to appreciate this Annihilate that enters the field of play. I'm farming up a bunch of energy with the Annihilate. I fire off the Night Slash thinking it would KO, but I just underestimate Master Premier Snorlax. It tanks the move, makes the Outrage, and realistically what I should have done is just counter all the way down, I think. Because now, I just lost 5 counters of energy that really didn't get me an advantage. In the back, opponent has their own Annihilate. I'm going to farm up way past the Shadow Ball and bait with the Night Slash. Shadow Ball doesn't quite KO in Masters, but it does so much damage. Perfect counting by my opponent as they will fire off the Night Slash. Night Slash is going to be shielded. I have energy on the Annihilate. I'm shielding. I am pressing my advantage here, and I'm firing off another Shadow Ball. Aggressive switch to the Florges. Florges continuing to farm. Opponent, a Night Slash will not KO here. They do need a Shadow Ball. I will commit the shield. It will be the Shadow Ball. They send in the Florges trying for the combo play, but I predict it and I click Disarming Voice. And that right there is a game-winning decision, understanding that their play is to snipe. I wasn't at the Moonblast, which is what I would have needed to potentially damage the Annihilate, but I'm in an okay spot now because I have Draco Meteor. They can go for the Shadow Ball. It's not going to matter. Honestly, it is slowly approaching a range where an Aqua Tail could KO, but we have Draco Meteor, so we don't have to worry about that. Draco Meteor picks up the knockout on Annihilape, and we're able to take the win. Decent lead in the next match, Florges versus Shadow Snorlax. I'm going to have to save switch out of here eventually to check and see if they have a Florges of their own in the back. They end up switching out, sending in Goldengo, which is another core breaker. It's not a Pokemon you see too commonly in the Master Premier Cup, but it is a definite core breaker. This is a matchup going up against Steel types where having Aqua Tail would be nice. Thunder Punch and Aqua Tail do the same damage, but Aqua Tail is less energy. So Aqua Tail is definitely the more efficient route. So here, I farm up, I try and do 2 in the move, but unfortunately it ends up being 3 in the move. I don't know if that was operator error or game bad. Either way, a little unfortunate. I will go for an undercharge just to get a little bit of extra energy on my Goodra. Opponent can send back in the Snorlax if they want to. My hope is that they try and farm down, because normally Goodra cannot output a lot of damage, but I have Draco Meteor, so I'm going to fire off the Draco Meteor at the Snorlax, but they actually respect it. Oh no, I'm going to save the Goodra, aggressively switch into the Florges, and they're staying in with the Snorlax. Man, I was so sure that Draco Meteor would land. The Moonblast is shielded. Judging by the fact that they're heavily protecting the Snorlax, it feels like Florges could have decent play in the back. Moonblast will connect, and I actually get a Moonblast attack drop. That's a very small chance of happening, so definitely some good luck on my side. My opponent is going to switch. They have Ursaluna in the back. So, as it turns out, I didn't need the good luck because Annihilape would have been able to sweep anyway. Unfortunately, since Ursaluna is stuck with Tackle as the fast move, it just does incredibly poorly against Annihilape. And Annihilape tanks the high horsepower, never in any danger whatsoever. I fire off the Night Slash just to be able to pick up the knockout. And they basically just have 1 HP of Snorlax. Here, I'll be honest, I wasn't sure of their energy, so I let it through. It's an outrage there, and I'm like, oh no, did I just throw? But thankfully, the Goodra was just healthy enough that I'm still able to take the win. Great lead in the next match, Florges versus Goodra. This is absolutely terrific. Opponent save switches to Skeledirge. Oh boy, this is not great, and I'm going to be sending in my Goodra. Goodra going to be hit with the Disarming Voice. Again, if you see a lot of Skeledirge, this team may not be the most comfortable to run. I make the Draco Meteor. And let's see, I don't think an Aqua Tail quite KOs here, but guess what definitely does? A Draco Meteor. We're able to pick up that KO, which is terrific. They're going to send in Goodra, understanding they can Dragon Breath down before I make it to another Draco Meteor. I throw out the last possible second, hoping that they will second guess their counts, but they do not. They are just going to let that through. I'm going to send in Florges, and here we just lose. There is just not a way to win this game, unfortunately. They have double Fire Ghost, the Chandelure in the back. And yeah, I am just completely cooked here. I am completely cooked. Even though I'm able to get a little bit of damage onto the Chandelure with the Fairy Winds, the biggest issue that I'm going to run into is even though Chandelure is super glassy, a Night Slash doesn't KO. The Switch Clocks are heavily misaligned as well. I'm going to farm up a ton of energy and then fire off this Night Slash. The Night Slash, I mean, it doesn't KO, which is my issue. I under-tap it thinking they would click the move instantly, and I let an entire Incinerate through. In the moment, I was thinking that has to KO, but it definitely does not KO. The Chandelure is so glassy, but it's just bulky enough. So I was thinking if I wait, they can throw their move and then pivot out, and I'm forced to waste the energy. But unfortunately, the Night Slash does not KO, and the game ends in a loss. So if you do see a lot of like ABB, Fire Ghost type teams or Skeledirge leads, this would be a bit of an awkward team to run into. Speaking of awkward things to run into, we lead Florges into a Venusaur. Oh no. Save switch Goodra. They respond with the Shadow Snorlax, and now it's Draco Meteor time. Draco Meteor nearly picks up the one-hit KO, and I will commit the shield. Honestly, I was not counting the Snorlax, but I'm saying, you know what? Let's be safe. Let's commit the shield. Let's guarantee switch advantage, because Florges isn't doing anything to Venusaur. They bring in the Venusaur, which is very interesting, because a Sludge Bomb will not KO. Venusaur only gets just above 3,000 combat power, so it's not going to inflict a ton of damage, whereas Goodra is almost a 4,000 combat power, so there's a massive difference in stats. Even a -2 Draco is just absolutely commanding respect. Oh my goodness. And now I send in the Florges, and it's a Mudshot Garchomp in the back. From here, I have a pretty safe path to just double bait. Even if they call the Disarming Voice, it basically just puts it into a range where I can just spam Night Slashes with the Annihilate. So I'm just in a 1 position here. They will go for the Earth Power. I know that I can tank 1. They do not get the debuff from the Earth Power, which is quite nice. Always appreciative of that. I go for another Disarming Voice bait, and again, it is going to be successful. I will commit the shield. Only worry would be if they have Sand Tomb, but they've already shown that they are on double nuke. So there, I try and wait the turn. Unfortunately, it ends up waiting 2 turns, but the good news is no catch is going to occur, and Florges gets the Vine Whip down. I was thinking of the Venusaur. Florges gets the Fairy Wind down the Venusaur and take the win. Hopping into the final match, we pick up a pretty okay lead Florges versus Primarina, but they save switch Skeledirge, and I was so slow on the counter swap here. Oh my goodness, I was incredibly slow on this counter swap, and that's pretty bad. But my opponent farms up past the Disarming Voice, saying, you know what, I can live the Aqua Tail, but they cannot live the Draco Meteor, and it's a Waterfall Primarina. So my Thunder Punch is not going to be doing nearly the damage that it typically would, because of course Draco Meteor lowers your attack by 2 stages. So the Thunder Punch, not going to do a lot of damage. I'm going to be able to fire off another Thunder Punch, however, and even at -2 attack, we are applying a lot of pressure to Primarina. Unfortunately for my opponent, the name of the game is just hard counter City. After they did not shield the Draco Meteor, they just lose off of alignment. The Night Slash will be no shielded. And yeah, I'm just in a completely 1 position with my Annihilate. I don't even think a Wild Charge KOs here, so I do let it through. The Wild Charge does not KO. They can send in the Primarina. Primarina will be able to fire off the Disarming Voice to pick up the KO. But here's where Florges can shine. Florges' pacing is just absolutely elite. I will be able to win the 2s. Opponent realizes that. They're just going to not use a shield. And the game ends with all 4 shields intact. All in all, I think Goodra is definitely improved for the Master Premier Cup. And especially for those who ended up maxing one during the Community Day, this is going to be a really good opportunity to use it. Now, whether you use Aqua Tail Thunder Punch or Thunder Punch Draco Meteor, I think both movesets have a lot of potential. Overall, Aqua Tail Thunder Punch will have the better pacing, and pacing can often be very valuable, but the Draco Meteor, of course, does give you kind of a get-out-of-jail-free card if shields are down, and a really good way to damage full-health dragons and bulky Pokemon like Snorlax. I will say, even if you don't run Draco Meteor, bluff like you do. Because after people watch this video, people might be expecting Draco Meteor more. If you're running Aqua Tail Thunder Punch and someone brings in a Snorlax, you can still build up to those 22 Dragon Breaths, go for the Aqua Tail, and they might end up respecting it. So it is something that I do think that even if you aren't running it, it's still worth pretending and bluffing to your opponents like you do, because you could potentially get them to shield moves that otherwise they would not be shielding. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. If you're enjoying the content, make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't. And a special thank you as always to our members here on YouTube. The support you guys provide is sincerely appreciated. So thank you guys oh so very much. And until next time, I've been Home Sliced Henry.